What is truly wrong with the National Hot Rod Association and NHRA National Events? Well, stay with us, kick your feet up, because I invite you to be a part of this spirited, gung-ho, productive conversation here on Racing Jack. How are you doing, everybody? So good to have you in this forum once again, and my. You guys have far exceeded my expectations, because my last video that I did 3 weeks ago that I was just spitballing, just kicking something around that I felt passionately about when I saw some holes in the stands at the U.S. Nationals, a trend that I have noticed for a long time. I made a video about it, figured a few people would watch. As of now, 122,000 people watched it, and 2,600 of you left comments. So thank you very much. We've got a great one here today as well. Let me back up for a second. My name is Jack Corpella, your friend, your confidant from Racing Jack. Some of you may also know me from Cycle Drag and CycleDrag.com. 2 YouTube channels, Facebook channel, TikTok, Instagram, and that is the website where, oh, by the way, just got our first look at the new Hayabusa, looking very, very cool. Now, guys, the subject at hand, here's the first thing I want to say. I knew when I did my last video about some of the problems in the NHRA and what I'm seeing with the decline in attendance and the decline in popularity in not just drag racing, but in many forms of motorsports, comes from a good place. It comes from a place of love. I've been going to the drag races since I was 3 years old. This week, I'll be 43, so you can do the quick math on that. I am certainly not as veteran and as astute as some of you who watch my videos, but I have been around the block a few times and I have noticed a few things. And I also believe this, that I prefaced my last video by saying this isn't going to sit well with everybody. We're going to get some blowback, we're going to get some haters, and listen, freedom of speech is a wonderful thing, and it will always be welcomed here on Racing Jack, Cycle Drag. You are allowed to have opinion. I invite that. The reason I'm raising awareness about, I've always made the point, if we don't have these difficult conversations, if we don't talk about things, if we don't ring the bell, if we don't raise awareness, we have no chance of fixing them. And what I can tell you, and what a bunch of other people have told me that have been going to races for decades, is it's just not the same. Something's missing. We're headed in the wrong direction. Does that mean NHRA is dead? Get a tombstone? Absolutely not. Don't misconstrue me. I would like to see them fix this. I would like to see them turn this around. So I have some ideas that we're going to talk about throughout this video. I have a potential fix. But first, let's get to some meat. Let's get to some juice, because I'll tell you, for all the, shall we say, critics out there that I received some less than savory, maybe less than polite messages from in a public forum. That is okay. You're allowed to do that. But let me also say this. If you are currently receiving a paycheck from the NHRA, which I know about 5 to 10 of you are, your credibility is going to be just a little bit diminished on this issue. Had that conversation with the great Jason Galvin. I like him, great announcer. We were kind of debating whether or not Z-Max was a good turnout. Also, one other young lady out there that I've been a big supporter of, who has kind of been a very harsh, outspoken critic of NHRA, especially during COVID and some other things that have happened, and then the Pro Superstar Shootout, but now all of a sudden is magically on the NHRA payroll and is a staunch defender. So that is okay. Just beware. If you are currently receiving a paycheck from the NHRA, your credibility is going to go down just a touch. That being said, I heard from so many people that you did not see on Facebook, did not see on YouTube. You saw them right here. A lot of people had things to say and strong opinions. They just don't want to put it out in the public. That is why I always say, when you see a bunch of negative comments or criticism, you guys are allowed to do that, but don't think you always speak for the masses. There are so many people who will watch a video that don't want to be a part of the comments, and I've heard from a lot of those people. So what I also want to say is these people are thoroughly vetted by myself. I try to do the best journalism that I possibly can. I don't just take things and run with them. And also, if people ask me to keep them anonymous, that's what I'm going to do. I'm also going to check out that source, make sure it's verified, make sure my story's verified. I got a lot of different phone calls and a lot of different texts from insiders that you wouldn't believe. At this time, I think I'm going to keep all of them anonymous, even though some of them have said it's okay to use their name. I want to double check on that, but what I can tell you is if I repeat it, if I say it, it's 100% verified, bona fide, solid rock source. So let's get to the first. issue here. This comes from a entrenched insider who I consider one of my mentors, who watched my video, and this was his feedback. And this particular person, a major NHRA supporter, was actually on the inside for several years, loves motorsports. This is what he says. And I want to read this text because I feel like this sums up what is wrong with the NHRA right now. Excellent analysis, all solid points. I'll add one more. The NHRA is no longer run by people who were racers, attended races as young men, hung around with racers over the years. They all have their MBAs and can push paper with the best of them. Glenn Cromwell was a sales guy in 1994. The last real racer in NHRA's front office was Graham Light. Tom Compton was never popular. He never spoke to the racers to get their perspective on anything. When Steve Gibbs and Ray Alley retired, racers no longer had a voice in Glendora. Look at the corporate sponsorship. Camping World backed out after just a few years, back down. They're still involved. So everything you are saying is spot on. And if John Force calls it a day, there will be nobody who can truly fill that void. What else does he say? One other quick note. The NHRA rudely asked Tom McEwen not to come anymore to national events in 2000. Prudhomme often stays away. So does Bernstein. Shirley only goes if they pay her. Garlitz, forget it. Amato, Bazemore, Selzy, Dixon, Dunn, WJ, Ace, Beck. They stay away. Sponsors: Bud, Castrol, Miller, Ford, McDonald's, Kendall, Toyota. After this year, all gone. So this was one heck of a rant by somebody I respect a great deal. Another rant that I'm not going to disclose the source right now, but let me tell you, this is a current Nitro owner. And here's what this Nitro owner said. We know that there's something wrong. We know there's problems. He said, we all love racing so much, we deal with it. This is the quote that this individual gave me too that sticks in my head. He says, speaking to the Pro organization, which is run by all the different racers, Alan Johnson, a big part of it out there, very important and influential. These are the multimillionaires that are spending $9+ million a year to go nitro racing. This racer told me, quote, we would never tolerate the way that we're treated in our businesses, but we tolerate it from the NHRA because we love racing. Okay, let me see if you're following me with this introduction, and let me back up for a second. Here is what is wrong with the NHRA. If you guys dissect the corporate structure of what's going on. As I told you in my last video, NHRA operates as a not-for-profit organization. They do not pay taxes. There may be a problem there. That the not-for-profit benefit comes in from Wally Parks' vision to take illicit street racing and put it on the drag strip. That's awesome. I love it. Can anybody go to an NHRA National Event now and look at Top Fuel and Funny Car and $22 hot dogs and tell me that it is not a for-profit business, okay? That is a problem, but not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is that NHRA is run by a board. Not a person, but a board. So I'm sorry, it took me 8 minutes to filibuster into that, but let me explain. Remember this theme as we go through this video too. This is the crux of every single problem that runs rampant in the NHRA, and that is, it is run by a board that does not consist of, as my gentleman said via text, nobody who has ever raced, participated in racing, been around racers. In fact, nobody who even comes to the races anymore. In fact, we talked a lot about President Glenn Cromwell. And by the way, too, salaries, I've done some investigation. Salaries, public, we have some data from 2023. This according to Nonprofit Explorer, which has this back in 2023. According to them, they have Glenn Cromwell at $897,000 a year as the president. That was back a couple years ago. Are those numbers, there could be more to those numbers as well. That is what is published on that site. I am citing my source. However, how many of you know that Glenn Cromwell is not the most powerful man in the NHRA? Even he's president. You're like, Jack, how's he not? He's president. The most powerful man in the NHRA is somebody I have never met, somebody who I don't see at the races. His name is Peter Clifford, former president, now chairman of the board. Guess what Peter's background is? He is an accountant. He is a bean counter, okay? Bean counters are essential for your business. You got to know your numbers. They're great people. When a bean counter gets in charge, you guys tell me in the comments, what do you think happens? It is not necessarily about product. It is about bottom line year after year. And I often wonder why we don't hear from the most powerful man in the NHRA, Peter Clifford, the chairman of the board. Somebody who, I looked at the stats on there, they've got Peter at, I have a hard time believing he makes less than Glenn Cromwell. According to this website, they got him at $650. That could be pre-bonuses. They mentioned in the comments too, Peter's got to be well north of $1 million a year. But again, where is Peter? So why is this a problem, guys? Let me dissect it. Some massive, massive salaries if you go on down the list too. You've got Ned Walliser, technical director, approaching $500,000. Evan Jonad in marketing. You've got Josh Peterson, who's the new Graham Light. You're talking mega, mega money. These guys are making, $500,000, close to $500,000 or more. Okay, so what is the problem here? Here's how I see it. And you guys may appreciate this if you've ever been a part of a townhouse community or anywhere that has an HOA. When you own a house, and there are very, very obvious flaws with that house, how easy is it for you to take action and change it? I would argue pretty easy. Anybody who's ever been involved in an HOA, have you ever tried to get 5 people to agree on anything, even if it's as simple as, can we paint this fence white? Can we change the lock on the gate? Good luck. That might take 6-7 months. So I believe NHRA greatly suffers from that structure. It's very, very difficult. Now let's think about this, okay? If there is one owner, one entity who owns the NHRA and the racers say, hey, we've got all these complaints, we've got all these issues, let's fix it. Said person might be able to take action, right? Might be able to say, hey, let me address this with my customers. If you look at the corporate structure at the NHRA right now, in my opinion and a lot of other people's opinions, it's not people with passion, and that is another problem, the lack of passion. It is people who want to keep their job, who want to go along to get along and keep climbing that ladder to get those big salaries. That's why it is so impossible to get anything done in the NHRA, where, I've talked a lot about the IHRA, and trust me guys, IHRA, they got a lot of work to do. I'm very impressed with what they've done so far, but why I think they may be a problem for the NHRA is right now, one man, Daryl Cuddle, owns it. If he wants to go paint the wall at Columbus, he can go paint the wall and put up a new sign. NHRA, you have to climb this ladder, and until you get to Glenn Cromwell, Peter Clifford, it's a bunch of people who are just trying to keep their job. Why would you want to ruffle any feathers? And to me, that's a real problem right now. And I just think that the way that the NHRA functions with a profit-first mentality, I would love for a man like Peter Clifford to come with Cycle Dragon. Let's go up in the stands. Let's talk to fans. Let's see what they really want. What's missing at these national events? Peter's going to look at things like dynamic ticket pricing. Do we have the opportunity to, if we raise the tickets this much, and even if X amount of people don't come, can our bottom line still increase? That is it. That is the bottom line. My story of working for the IHRA back in 15-16, we lost when Lou Partenza took over. And Lou's a very smart man. He was also an accountant. Also didn't have a lot of passion for drag racing. Also didn't come to the races. We were once on a conference call talking about how can we cut costs? What can we do to improve things? Lou's idea was, can we cut the runner-up trophy? That's when I went like that, because I thought to myself, what's going to happen when that man who has been busting his butt drag racing for 40 years makes it to his first final, and we don't have a runner-up trophy for him so that we can save $1,000 a year, $2,000 a year? And that is why I do believe lack of passion will get you in tremendous trouble. So what were we talking about last time? Let's recap. The U.S. Nationals, in my opinion, a shell of itself. The fans just aren't coming out like they were. Now, Reading was great. I'll be the first one for you guys that think that I'm a hater or not rooting for drag racing. I love Reading. I was a newscaster in the Lancaster market, which is 40 minutes from Reading. I made my first pass on my Hayabusa at Maple Grove. Love Maple Grove. And I think what we know now is one of two things are going to happen at Maple Grove. It's either going to rain cats and dogs and nobody's going to show up, or the weather's going to be nice and they're going to pack the place. So some of the haters online, nanny boo boo Jack, see, I told you you don't know what you're talking about. Scott Hamilton, my buddy El Bandito, posting all these pictures. I love those pictures, Scott. I applaud those pictures. And here's what we got to remember about Maple Grove. There's a reason why Major League Baseball always roots for the Yankees. They don't say this, but the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Mets. It's because New York, LA, two biggest TV markets, two biggest media markets. So without Englishtown, New Jersey anymore, this Maple Grove is the closest track to that New York market. It is huge. All those fans come over. Philadelphia, I think are still media market number 4, Philadelphia. All those fans coming over for Philly. And yeah, oh, by the way, from a Pennsylvania boy, I can tell you Pennsylvania is a red-hot racing state. They love their sprint cars. They love their dirt racing. They love their drag racing. They love their motocross. They love it all. Pennsylvania is a great state. So I was happy about that. But now, Scott Hamilton and everybody else and every other podcaster out there that sent me a video, where did all the videos and pictures go when we went to ZMAX Dragway? Because ZMAX was an absolute ghost town, in my opinion. Were there bodies there? Yes, there were bodies. But that is a head scratcher to me that I made some noise about because it just doesn't make sense. Charlotte, North Carolina, racing country. Is it NASCAR country or is it racing country? I would argue that it's still drag racing country because there's so many drag strips in North Carolina. I think the two healthiest states for drag racing are Ohio and North Carolina because of all the tracks. That's why I think it's dying out in California, that you look at Sacramento Raceway, gone. You look at Fontana, gone. It seems like, frickin', what was it? Bakersfield on the rocks, but still hanging in there. Thank you, Bakersfield. What's the one that escapes me? Irwindale gone. I mean, drag racing was born in California, and now it's dying in California. So it's a tremendous shame. ZMAX is a head scratcher for me. I was there, if you watched on this channel, for Supermotocross. Totally different, younger demographic. Place was really filled up. Great vibe, great energy. Loved it. NHRA for the second year in a row, because I've been taking videos there 2 years now. I've been watching this. Last year's when I first took notice. And yeah, for you haters out there, I did mention that, last year it was a 2-wide. This year it was a 4-wide. I made it clear the 2-wide videos were not from this year, but that's 2 years of bad turnouts in Charlotte. And it's just a head scratcher for me because it's such a beautiful Bruton Smith racetrack. The Bellagio, they call it. It is a palace. It is wonderful, but the fans in Charlotte are not coming out and supporting it. They've closed one half of the racetrack. When nobody sits in one side, like at Pomona, like at Chicago, when they shut one half of the grandstands, that's got to be a huge wake-up call. Let me tell you, though, one other thing that I think, and this could come from the board not coming to the races, or if you're a Evan Jonat in marketing, if you are, if you're a Jeffrey Young, who we'll talk about here in marketing, maybe you don't want to rock the boat and suggest a whole lot of changes. But here's what I see. When I go to Supermotocross, when I went at ZMAX and also the Strip at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, in between a very tight program, which they run a lot tighter program, the duration is shorter, which I said in my last video, I support, just like Major League Baseball is tightening up, just like all forms of entertainment are tightening up. We run these 4-day marathons at drag races, which I love, the hardcores will always love, but for the general public, they want a nice 3-4 hour show. At Supermotocross, you walk around the pits. You can watch freestyle motocross. You can watch a motorcycle stunt show. There's all kind of crazy interactive stuff going on. There's Monster Energy brings this youthful display and a DJ and a light show, and they're throwing out free Monster, and it's crazy. You know what NHRA has? Spin the wheel and get a free bag of Mission chips. Now, I'm not going to hate on Mission chips because I love you, Mission, and thank you for supporting racing. And I love your chips, even though not too great for the old waistline I got to watch. I like your chips a lot, Mission. NHRA, if we want to get younger, what in the world, how outdated and boring are your pits? Okay, so how many kids want to look at Skag power equipment? It's great they're there. Thank you, Skag. Probably a lot of guys checking out power equipment, but to get younger, spin the wheel, get a bag of chips. You know what NHRA should have? And hey, maybe this is a good idea for these guys. They can take it to the board. We'll see what happens. NHRA should have like 10 simulators set up where kids can get in them And maybe, I remember when I was a kid, there was a game where you could hit your shift points, 10 kids race, somebody controlling the carnival, up top, prizes being given out. Kids would be on that stuff all day. There's nothing like that. The pits in my estimation are just totally dead. Now, I know what a lot of you are saying. Clay Milliken, I love you, great ambassador of the sport. Who else did I hear talking? Every ticket's a pit pass, right? I love it. Guys, we've been saying that for 40 years. It's time to evolve. It's time for something new. And the reason I say that, I appreciate all of you Nitro teams. I appreciate what you guys can do with the cars. I appreciate tearing it down. I appreciate watching all that. I think it is super awesome. But let's be honest, for the general public, not for us insiders, after you've watched, I don't know, 7 or 8 thrash sessions, especially kids, how entertaining is that really a selling point? To watch somebody rebuild, a team rebuild a top fuel car. I think it's great. I think it's cool. It is something that is going to always attract me to the sport. But I think that we've been saying that for 40 years, and it's time. NHRA needs to evolve. Entertainment needs to evolve. And every ticket's a pit pass isn't quite what it used to be. A ticket was a pit pass at Supermotocross finale out at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and that one was pretty cool as well because you could watch the mechanics washing the bikes, working on the bikes, riders out. So I do think that's a good selling point, but not something to hang your hat on as something to bring in this new generation. So to recap, guys, we have a board that lacks passion and really lacks vision. And I feel like we've got some dubious statistics out there. And speaking of, okay, so what was another thing that the haters like giving me? The press release that came from the NHRA about the U.S. Nationals. And I had to laugh at this because at my last video, I told you, as a guy who works in television, there's some smoke and mirrors in TV ratings, always has been. We get a press release from the NHRA that says, U.S. Nationals watched by 1 million people. That's awesome. Hey, listen, let me be positive. And a lot of those haters out there, take that, Jack. See, they weren't at the races. They were watching on TV. Well, let's dissect this. First, NHRA said it was a non-NFL adjacent program. I don't agree with that because I watched it upstairs here at my home, and there was an NFL preview show lead-in. This was not on FS1. This was on Big Fox. That is the key factor. When you go to one of those big networks, there is a built-in audience. I worked at Lucas Oil for a long time, and we did short course racing. We would air on CBS Sports Network, and then we would air on Big CBS. It's very expensive because with those big networks, not sports networks, there is a built-in audience. So I am not trying to take a whiz on anyone's cornflakes here. I think it's a wonderful thing. I love what NHRA is doing. Let's expose it. But I've contacted Nielsen, and if we dove in deeper with that built-in audience and that NFL preview show lead-in, I'd really like NHRA to tell me how many people were watching after 15 minutes. And I'd also like to challenge NHRA that let's reveal the numbers for FS1. Please tell us all the ratings. And I'll take it a step further because my man Steve Righteous, executive television producer, I think he does a great job, long history in this, but Steve and everyone else in California and Indy, I have a challenge for you. If you guys want to really be transparent with television ratings, with TV ratings, this is a great way to do it. Run a race free on YouTube and let us watch. Let us watch the numbers. That's what's so cool about this digital age. I revealed my age to you a ways back. I'm certainly no spring chicken, but I'm not over the hill yet. But I'm so thankful God planted me in this generation because as somebody enamored with media, when I came out of the University of Florida in 2005, it was long enough ago, kids are going to laugh at me, I sent out VHS tapes to get my first job. I sent them to all these news stations, right? These small market, Ottumwa, Iowa, Tucson, Arizona, actually Tucson, Alan Reinhardt, sorry. That's actually that's a mid-market. It took me a while to get there. What are some of the ones? Beckley, West Virginia, right? That's how you started. And these news stations back then, they were propped up mainly by furniture stores, car stores, and perhaps smoke and mirrors ratings. The way ratings worked back then is the markets weren't even metered. It would be diaries where, I don't know, maybe 30 homes in a market, 60 homes in a market, they'd write down what they watch. Well, as I continued to work in news, what we found out is when they went to a metered market, we found out how wrong the diaries really were. And I thought for all those years, news stations lived and died by quarter rating points. And when they quizzed some of these people that had diaries afterwards, they were talking about news anchors that hadn't been there in a decade. They also found a little interesting aside for you. They found that shows like Inside Edition and the celebrity gossip shows had higher viewership. Game shows actually had lower. And my former boss's philosophy was that maybe people were embarrassed to say that they were watching celebrity gossip and wanted to be the people watching Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. Anyhow, I digress about that. Where I'm going with all this, we live in such a wonderful age because YouTube is absolutely amazing and outstanding, and everything is transparent. There's nothing to hide behind. And that's why I'm so prideful of my numbers that I try to strive for every single day. That's what we have to do as a content creator, as a media outlet in the year 2025 and moving forward. Your numbers are out there. Your views on Facebook, your views on TikTok, your views on Instagram. I remember when Aaron Rodgers went on Pat McAfee for one of the first or second times, like it was astounding to me that you could watch. I think there were over 500,000 people watching, and you could see it because Google was showing you how many people were watching on YouTube, and it was amazing. And I'm like, this is so transparent. This is awesome. So anyhow, Steve Righteous, NHRA, I implore you, please run a race free on YouTube and let us see how many people are watching it. Run the U.S. Nationals on YouTube. Give me a nice 2-3 hours, and we will be able to evaluate it. And I think that's fair to the sponsors that you're approaching that are asking big, big money for these programs. I think it will help too. I really, really do. And like I said, I'm not trying to knock the sport down. If the numbers are lower than what they are, well, you know what? Maybe Brad Gerber, the vice president and also lead salesman, needs to fix his deck, adjust his deck, bring down prices a little bit, and figure out what he's got to do to bring some of those big names I mentioned back in. Bring McDonald's back in. Bring Castrol back in. Bring Bud and Miller back in. Where did everybody go? Why are we seeing this huge exodus from NHRA? So I hope you guys are with me so far. Let me see. I told you, and please leave your thoughts down below as we continue this conversation. I'll try not to be too long-winded, but I could go for a long time about this. Very, very passionate. Have a lot of strong feelings. And again, am rooting for NHRA to be fixed. My fix coming at the end. More feedback from the first video. First, TV ratings, a little perfidious and deceitful. Let's air this on YouTube and find out who's really interested in NHRA. Another piece of feedback I got, one high-ranking racer watched my video, loved it, agreed with everything except when I talked about quarter mile. He said he sent it to some insiders, and they said, yep, this kid doesn't know what he's talking about. That is because right now Goodyear is having a massive problem. They can't certify a tire over like 340 miles an hour. So one disclaimer I want to make that I tried to make clear in that first video. When I said we need to go back to quarter mile racing, I am 100% in favor of slowing the cars down. Slow them down. I don't want to see 375. I don't want to see 385. Maybe I don't speak for the majority, but give me good side-by-side racing at 300 miles an hour. That's safer. That's better on parts. That'll bring the cost down. I don't think we'll lose any fans. I think as long as the Top Fuel dragster still smokes the tires, makes noise, is crazy, unpredictable, rattles your chest, I think a nice 300 mile an hour quarter mile pass would be pretty cool. That's just what I think. Don't want any issues with that. Okay, so I have told you the problem with the NHRA is the board structure. I've heard from people inside the building who work there. It's impossible to get anything done. It's impossible to get anything accomplished. Everybody just trying to stay employed, just trying to climb the ladder, just trying to keep that money flowing in, not rocking the boat. This brings me to an example that I touted last year that a lot of people got with me. Some people got a little bit upset. I talked about Vance and Hines and their Pro Stock motorcycle program. As you guys can see, I'm a big Pro Stock motorcycle fan. That's the leathers of the greatest ever, the late, great Dave Schultz. One of my heroes was affiliated with Vance and Hines for a little bit. Let me clarify my position on Vance and Hines. Absolutely legendary people, Terry Vance, Byron Hines, Andrew Hines. Eddie's a little mean, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Great guys, make great parts, legends. My problem is not with their product or their parts. My problem is with the 40-plus years of what I've perceived as favoritism in the class, a class that I think is now dying, where they make They control the crankshaft market for the Suzukis. They make the billet cases. They make so many of these custom parts, and then they also dominate the category. I've used the example that it took George Bryce 8 years to get his cylinder head approved. It took Vance and Hines months. So I think there's been clear favoritism. Now, I also know the other side of that coin, and that is, I truly believe, without Terry Vance, up there in Glendora, talking to these people, not Glendora anymore, sorry, I'm dating myself, wherever they moved to after they shut down Glendora, there would not be a pro stock motorcycle class. So thank you very much for that, Terry. My point is this: with participation in pro stock motorcycle down to like 11, 12 in some races, with some fans, many fans saying this is boring. No disrespect, because I love pro stock motorcycle, but you look at what no-bar bikes are doing right now. You look at the latest and the greatest, and if you want to get Suzuki involvement and you want to get manufacturer involvement, you look at what motorcycles are doing without wheelie bars and turbochargers right now versus pro stock motorcycle, which seems to just kind of be stagnant and a class kind of stuck in the 80s. I just ask you this. If there was a group of individuals, if I owned it, if you owned it, if we picked out 5 people who loved motorcycle drag racing and I said, give me the best, baddest, somewhat affordable motorcycle drag racing class that 30 people are going to be interested in, and let's do it, and let's maintain parity, and let's figure it out. I think you could do it, right? NHRA is the highest level of drag racing, so the motorcycles there should represent the best, the biggest. Pro Street right now is probably the hottest spectator class that there is. I mean, if you're Suzuki, if you're trying to market, if you're pro stock, why do we have a wheelie bar on the back of the bike? Why, when we have street tires that can go 230 plus miles an hour, why are we still doing this? But my biggest contention is this. Vance and Hines has, I think, had a lot of influence. This is my opinion because of how influential Terry Vance has been in bringing in corporate dollars. My example, Harley Davidson, this is kind of what soured me, guys. I had to go out there as a reporter, as a journalist for 18 years and cover Harley Davidson in pro stock motorcycle, where only Andrew Hines and Eddie Krawick could run the Harley V-Rods. Nobody else could ever get one. 18 years. They won 10 championships. I think that's kind of what wore me out and made me so jaded. Do you know what it's like to cover those races, race after race after race, and to ask questions and to not have them answered, and to have other racers pull you into their trailer and give you an earful about how unfair this is, but then not say that to Vance and Hines and just kind of try to use you to push forward their agenda, and then have people like Kevin McKenna of the NHRA give Eddie Krawick a standing ovation when he answered a reporter in the crowd saying, I don't care if you guys don't think this is fair. We'll bring 4 of them. Anyway, it just wasn't good sport. It wasn't good competition. It wasn't parity. Why did it exist? I know why it exists. Because Harley Davidson pumped so much money into the sport. So how do I tie this all together? How does this all relate? If you were a single entity who wanted the absolute best, the best representation of motorcycle drag racing, you would have fixed that. If you are a board structure who's getting a whole lot of money from Harley Davidson, you're there to not rock the boat. If you're a Brad Gerber, if you're a Glenn Cromwell, if you're a Peter Clifford, why are you going to rock the boat? Who cares that we have 12 other racers complaining? We've got Harley Davidson as a major sponsor. So yeah, let's let the Vance and Hines boys win these championships on these motorcycles that nobody else can have. That's why I think this so neatly ties in, and this is a major problem. Like, for instance, if Bill Bader, and Bill, I'm sorry. I always mention Bill Bader's name because I think he's one of the smartest, sharpest, brightest minds in all of drag racing right now. And I don't want to get Bill in any hot water. I haven't spoken to Bill on the phone in a long, long time. So NHRA, I am not speaking on behalf of Bill Bader. He is not one of my sources. I do like to kick things by him. My personal connection to Bill is I think that Summit Motorsports Park, Norwalk, Ohio, the nicest drag strip in the country. You go there, you can tell you're going to somebody's home, right? It's like when you clean up because company's coming. That's the difference between a board structure and somebody who owns it. If Bill wants to go paint said fence, he can go paint said fence tomorrow. If Bill wants to burn the wall down because he wants to put a show on for the fans, he can. So Bill Bader, when I first announced AMA Pro Star Race back in 2001, Scooter Kaiser introduced me to him and said, you got to get with this guy. He really understands it. And the first thing Bill Bader told me is he said, hey, I learned this from my dad, the great Bill Bader Sr. We are not in the racing business, we're in the entertainment business. And I never forgot that about Bill Bader. I went to the Night of Fire, 3 years in a row, Night Under Fire. If you guys have never been there, please check it out. Bill does it every August. It is the most successful one-night drag racing blowout of the year. I talked about this in my last video, and some of you commented, I'm glad you brought up Bill Bader. I'm glad you brought up Bill Bader. Well, the reason I bring up Bill Bader is if you are NHRA and this man packs, Bill would probably give us the number, I don't know, 45,000, north of 45,000, I don't know. However many people Bill Bader packs into his Night Under Fire, that is just a complete and utter sellout extravaganza that I brought my buddy Kyle to, who used to shoot news with me, who really doesn't like racing, who said, boy, that was such an entertaining show. And I'm like, that's how you get the general public right there. If you've never been to that, experience it. But everybody agrees Mr. Bill Bader is one of the best out there. So my question is this: if you were NHRA, if you're Evan Jonat, if you're Ned Walliser, if you're Glenn Cromwell, if you're Bradley Gerber, if you're Joss Peterson, if you're Peter Clifford, why wouldn't you listen to every word Bill Bader says or just turn promotions over to him? Let's go back to the crux of my argument. Now, if I am one of those people trying to keep my job, why would I want somebody to jump in front of me? Now, if I'm somebody that owns the NHRA and I want it to succeed for the good of the sport, I would. But right now, why don't they listen to every word? Another guy, Royce Miller. Royce Miller, who is a disciple of the Bader family. He learned from Bill Bader Sr. Royce is probably the best operations guy in the country. Tremendous. Maryland International Raceway is another great one. If I have a problem at Norwalk or Maryland, I go to Royce, I go to Bill Bader. These are two guys that can hear you out and they can make decisions. There is no one to go to at NHRA like that. Even Glenn Cromwell can only do so much. And again, guys, because nobody owns this, everybody's trying to keep their job. Everybody is trying to stay employed. So I can tell you a story too. Let me tell you a quick one as we wrap this up. And again, I invite your thoughts, your comments down below on what we can do to fix this. And if you haven't watched my first video yet on what is truly wrong with the NHRA and why they're in trouble, watch the first video, then watch this one. I want your comments and potential fixes. I'm going to give you my fix in a second. First, I want to give you another story about what's going on with the media situation in the NHRA. Now, for having conversations like this, if you do anything unsavory, unpleasant, anything but wave those pom-poms, rah-rah coverage, you will not get a media credential, and that is okay. That is their prerogative. That is their right. I would counter with this. If this video, just like the last one, the last one got 122,000 views, 2,600 comments, do you know how wonderful that is for the sport? No matter what the topic was, no matter if the folks in California on the NHRA board don't love it, people are talking about drag racing, and that is a wonderful thing. Because let me spin this to you, all the certain female reporter that I had mentioned, who's now on the NHRA payroll, who had a problem with my reporting, getting people talking about drag racing is a wonderful thing. Because guess who would love people talking about them right now? Drag boat racing, sprint car racing, hill climb, desert racing. I was at a lot of these, by the way, Vegas to Reno on this channel. Make sure you check it out. There's all forms of motorsports crying out for attention. So a big positive here is there's still a large, and I mean large, number of people who care about drag racing, but we need some tweaks, we need some fixes, we need some passion. We need some people with passion who are going to go sit in the stands, who are going to come to the races, come to the racers and races. Talk to these people. Collaborate with these people. That's what needs to be done. Let me give you my story too about what's going on with the media right now. So there's a man named Jeffrey Young who is in charge of media relations. And I've met Jeffrey Young. I've worked with him. Listen, I'm going to talk professionally, not personally. Personally, I sit down with Jeffrey Young and we go to a baseball game. I'd probably really, really like the guy. On a professional level, and I'm pretty good at sniffing these things out, he strikes me exactly as one of the people that I just described, somebody with little to no passion for the product or drag racing, somebody desperately trying to keep his job, somebody trying to get along to go along, somebody trying to climb that ladder. Why do I know that? Is because the conversations I've had with him, I've pitched things to him, I've talked about different ways to get pro stock motorcycle more exposure. They've kind of fallen on deaf ears. really haven't got much of a response, haven't got much communication. I thought it was just me. I've talked to other members of the media and they said it's the same exact vibe. I've talked to people that work under him and they said the same exact vibe. This is the mark of somebody with an Ole Miss education who comes from a bull riding background, who is great friends with Ned Walliser, who's trying to hang on to his job and climb the ranks. And in my opinion, it is people like that that are hurting the product. Now, just to show you I'm not all negative, I want to give a shout out and be very, very positive. There is a man in the media room. I hope I don't get him in trouble. And I hope I get his name right. Josh Hachat. Hachat, parlez-vous français? Is it French or is it Hachat? Guys, Josh is 180 degrees out of what I just described with Jeffrey Young. This man's at every single race. If you have ever read an NHRA press release, it's probably written by him. Oftentimes with Josh, I would shut down the media suite because we'd be there till the wee hours of the night finishing up. Josh runs the interviews and does a great job with the press conferences. Josh is attentive. Josh is friendly. He is nice. He seems to really enjoy his job and enjoy racing. He's pretty buff too, so he's probably got a good work ethic. You can tell that. But anyhow, a couple nights ago, I went to my computer here and for the heck of it, I looked him up. I'm like, where'd this guy come from? 10 years, or I don't know if it was 10 years, don't quote me on that, but he came from the ADRL, came from drag racing. Okay, this is exactly the kind of guy who has the passion that NHRA needs. I think you should put Josh on the board right now. He's that great. Like, you look at Jeffrey Young, this is a man who came from bull riding, who, from my estimation, my opinion, doesn't really have a passion or a love for drag racing. I could tell by the questions that he asked me. I could tell by his impression of what I was doing. I could tell by the lack of communication. The lack of races he actually attends tells me he really doesn't have a passion for the product. From my conversation with him, more of an F1 guy, and that's okay. But people like Josh who run that media suite should be promoted. That is what you need, people who love drag racing. Because let's face it, if we all want to get rich, we could do many things, and motorsports doesn't have to be one of them. That's why all these people in the nitro ranks that have successful businesses, this is their hobby. This is their passion, and it goes back to that quote that I got from said racer, and that is, we would never tolerate this kind of attitude and this structure and this pushing us around mentality in business, but we tolerate it in drag racing because we all have a passion for it. That is another thing too, guys. These racers need to be valued as the customer, okay? They're spending $9+ million a year to go racing. They should be number one. I told you back in the day, NHRA was the boss. NHRA was the boss when it was much healthier, much stronger. Corporate sponsorships were in there. They told you where to go, and you had to go there to fulfill your obligations. Now with all these privately funded individuals, I have a challenge for you because I respect all you so much. So Alan Johnson, Mr. Pro, Coletta, you guys are great with what you've done for the sport. Tony Stewart Racing, Mike Salinas Valley Services, Capco, all of you guys, John Force Racing. When is it time to push back against this board? Push back. We've seen a little pushback. There's more stories that we can get into later with what happened with the Pro Superstar Shootout and Wes Buck's involvement with all this and how Wes really isn't involved anymore. And we can tell those stories at a later date. I'm not going to make this a 3-hour video. But what I'm talking about now is, when is enough for you guys to put your foot down and say, listen, we want a single owner. We want $2 million shed out of this board right now, and we want to put it into championship funds and payouts, because that's where it should be. You got a president making $1 million. You got board members north of $1 million. You got operation guys at $500,000. Your technical director at $500,000. And these are all people that really can't get anything done because they just want to keep their job. At what point is it time to push back and say, this structure isn't working? It's not working for us. It's not putting us in the best light possible. What did I say in my last video? This organization can't cultivate new stars. John Force and Big Daddy Don Garlitz are still the two biggest names. It's time to truly build new stars. A star is somebody who sells tickets. You need to get with new age marketing. Look at what is being done in other younger forms. I keep complimenting Supermotocross. Guys, they got it. They, as predicted, they outdrew NHRA at ZMAX, and I guarantee you, when NHRA visits the Strip in Las Vegas, they outdraw them in Las Vegas with a much younger demographic, with the things that they are doing, with the value they are providing. And I know that a lot of those people are on site. They have a very, very good media relations person over there who is very passionate about the product and cares. This is somebody I've seen at every single race who cares. That is the difference. When NHRA has a media relations guy who's hardly ever there, when Cycle Drag is getting ready to beat NHRA, this is one of my goals, beat NHRA in Facebook followers. NHRA is at like 1.8 million. Cycle Drag, Facebook's at almost about 1.7. So I hope this challenges NHRA to get busy on Facebook. Because my goodness, I've offered to help. I've offered Jeffrey Young help. It's fallen on deaf ears. Just like everybody else has fallen on deaf ears. We've thought of ways to promote some of you racers out there. And guess what? Some of you racers got to think outside the box too. The onus is on you. When I say create stars, a lot of you, you got to remember, just like that Bill Bader comment that I made, this is the entertainment business. What made John Force such a draw? Well, number one, he was one heck of a racer, just like many of you are. Number two, when you put that microphone in front of his face, you never knew what he was going to say. And no matter what he said, you either had a smirk on your face or your jaw dropped. If he was in the wrestling business, would say, John Force could cut a promo. He's an entertainer. And everybody out there should be an entertainer on the mic. I really like what I'm seeing out of Matt Hagan. I think he's got so much potential. I mean, he's already bona fide champion, great racer. This stuff that he's doing with Race Day Fit, hilarious, funny. All racers should be doing that 100%, because I think some racers give up. It's too easy, you guys. I see this in the pro stock motorcycle ranks too. You got to remember, I don't want to slay any egos out there, because racing is about egos. But remember, who's selling tickets? And I think a lot of racers, when they show up and they start signing autographs, it goes to their head. I'm a star. I'm a draw. Guys, in that NHRA environment, we could probably put anybody in a crew shirt, put them in front of a table with handouts, and they're going to sign autographs. That does not mean you are selling tickets. And NHRA needs to help you sell tickets, which means we need to entertain people. Nobody ever said, man, I was too entertained at that. That event was too entertaining. That movie was too entertaining. That race was too entertaining. It's about entertainment, storyline, rivalries, which we need to create and cultivate. And everybody who has an opportunity to talk on that microphone, everybody should take it as an opportunity, not just to, of course you got to thank your sponsors, you got to thank the people, but wasn't John Force the greatest at this? He would always find a way to work in his sponsors in a way that wasn't the typical, I want to thank Castrol GTX. No, we've heard that. The fans have heard that. Force would do it in a way that would just knock your socks off and entertain you, and that's why he is one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time. I mean, John Force, Big Daddy Don Garlits, two unbelievable legends. And I just look at let me talk too about one thing before we go, and this could open up a whole can of worms. And this is something, Jeffrey Young's one of the individuals I talked about in charge of marketing, and I saw him at a symposium talking about this Women of Power initiative. Now, what I think right now is awesome is that NHRA is the most diverse motorsport, 1,000%. These women are unbelievable, bad to the bone. The fastest woman in the world right now, Brittany Ford. She is a bad, not going to say the word. She's awesome. She checks all the boxes. She is tremendous, okay? But here's what I feel, and follow me on this one. Pushing this Women of Power initiative right now as the number one thing up front. That's kind of the selling point. We have Women of Power. Come see our Women of Power. I think it's awesome, but again, just like I said about the Clay Milliken and these other guys about every ticket's a pit pass, guys, we've been saying it for 40 years. Shirley Muldowney was a woman of power and kicked some butt. Angèle Sampey, I watched her in 1996 show she was a woman of power, 3-time NHRA champion, absolute bad to the bone diva. She's awesome, and that's why I'm glad to still see her with the NHRA. So my question is this, is that really what's going to sell tickets? Who in NHRA right now thinks that the Women of Power marketing initiative is the number one thing to bring people in? Meaning that if Peter Clifford, Jeffrey Young, Evan Jonat, Glenn Cromwell, Bradley Gerber all went up into the stands and talked to people that come to NHRA races and said, what are you here to see? Would they say Women of Power? And I think, hey, it's awesome, man. You look, I mean, you got so many great women. Please don't misconstrue me in any way. Erica Enders, total bad to the bone lady. Leah Pruitt, Awesome, awesome, awesome racers. But I think the fans care more about not just the fact that you're a woman, but who's your rival? What makes you tick? What are you going to say next? You know, what are these personal things about you that I'm attracted to right now? That's my issue. And I did notice, like I said, Jeffrey Young, who the Ole Miss product, the bull riding specialist, this is what he is pushing and peddling so hard right now. And I just wonder, is that the #1 marketing hook for the NHRA? Let me know your thoughts on that down below. No offense, ladies, because I love you. And let me tell you, I've had my behind whipped several times. We found that out long ago. The ladies can beat the boys in drag racing, and that is what makes this a great, inviting sport that is very, very diverse, that is open to all types of people. I just don't know if that's a marketing hook in this day and age. I don't know. As I said before, leave me your thoughts down below. So guys, I think at this point we should wrap this one up. I told you I could talk for a little while. I'm just getting warmed up too. We might have to do these more often. My fix, here is my fix. And it may be pie in the sky. I don't know if it can happen. My fix is this board structure needs to go away. NHRA needs to be sold. It needs to be sold to somebody. Who has enough money? I don't know. Pro, where you at, guys? You know, Mr. Coletta, Mr. Salinas, Mr. Torrance, Mr. Stewart. NHRA has to be sold. Because right now, if you look at what Daryl Cuddle's doing with the IHRA, how he's buying up tracks left and right, he's improving them left and right, he's getting stuff done. It's efficient. It's very, very efficient because it's one man calling the shots. We don't have that in the NHRA. We have a not-for-profit organization that, from the numbers that I've seen, has a gross revenue of about $90 million, profit of about $5 million, highly paid executives that, hey, great people that work at the NHRA. As I said before, I'm not an NHRA hater. I love the NHRA. Don't hate the people that work at the NHRA. I hate the way the NHRA is run. I hate the fact that when I've been at many national events, I look around and where's the employees? Everybody's back at the hotel. Why is that? Because Peter Clifford needs to keep this P&L sheet sharp and keep his expenses low. But Peter Clifford's not here to talk to the man who just took his whole family for their 3-month big expenditure to sit up in the bleachers and watch the action here today. I don't see it happening. There's no boots on the ground. There's no passion. There's no vision. And all these legends that have been exiled from the NHRA, come on, guys. Come on. Because you've had some great ones that should still be there. And I'm telling you right now, Alan Reinhart should still be announcing races at the NHRA. Mike Dunn should still be involved in the television program. Don Garlitz should still be at your races on the regular. Larry Dixon should still be there on the regular. Legends like Joe Amato and Gary Scelzi and Whit Bazemore and Kenny Bernstein should be visible at all times. And one last thing I forgot to mention while I wrap this up too is I talked about how important Tony Stewart is right now, even more important than ever, because we found out not only are we losing John Force, Brittany Force is now stepping away to, I believe, have a child. Congratulations, Brittany. That is your right. That is your prerogative. Thank you for good luck having a child, and thank you for everything you've done for NHRA drag racing. Hope to have you back. Tony Stewart, who it's announced he will be back next year, thank goodness, because I talked about the value of having Tony Stewart there, and although he has big shoes to fill with the absence of John Force, Tony Stewart is his own man, his own legend, and exactly what I told you about that crossover appeal. I watched some of the podcasts, Dale Jr. and Bubba the Love Sponge and a lot of these other guys talking about Tony Stewart, talking about how he's the regular season champion, talking about his crash with Mr. Coletta out there. And when you got Motorsports giants talking about you, that's a wonderful thing. That's why Tony Stewart right now in the NHRA, every single racer should walk up to his trailer, shake his hand and say, thank you so much. I know in WWE, they used to tell Hulk Hogan, thank you for the house, Terry. His name was Terry Bollea. God rest his soul. God bless him. Hogan would fill it up not just at Madison Square Garden, but when you were running, Cedar Rapids on a Tuesday night and it was sold out and Hulk Hogan was on the card, thank you for the house. We ought to be saying thank you for the house, Tony, because he's not the only reason, but he's a huge part of it. A lot of people coming out to see Tony Stewart, 100%. And of course, all the other action. But we need to grow new stars. We need to cultivate new stars. My goodness. And let's get Bill Bader on the phone tomorrow. Bill, I hope I didn't get you in trouble. I have not been talking to Bill. Please turn over all marketing and communications to Bill Bader. Let's please enhance the pit area. Let's get some simulators. Let's get some stuff for the kids. Let's get some fun and enjoyable activities. Let's find a way to bring these old school Fortune 500 companies back. Let's bring the legends back. Let's be more transparent with our television ratings. Let's go to work on social media. Cycle Drag should not be beating you on YouTube. And we are. And Jeffrey Young, I've tried to help you on this, but you don't want my help, but that's okay. Anyhow, I digress, guys. One owner, that's the big thing. Can somebody step up and buy it? I don't have anything confirmed. There are rumors behind the scenes that this has potentially been shopped around or at least discussed, the sale of NHRA. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I think that would be the absolute best fix. And guys, I thought about this. I mean, this is crazy to say, but Darryl Cuttle is buying everything. Could Darryl Cuttle be making a bid to buy the NHRA? I don't know. But you know, somebody. I know that those pro racers who I've challenged, they've got the money, they've got the wherewithal, and I think they realize I'm not telling them anything they don't know. You are the show. The Tony Stewarts, the Force, Coletta, Salinas, all you guys, you are the ones spending millions and millions of dollars to put on a show. You do not need this highly paid, dare I say overpaid, executive structure and board telling you what to do when every race is not a jam-packed sellout. In fact, I hope we see more Maple Groves. That's what I want to wrap up with, guys. I'm rooting for it. I'm rooting for drag racing. I'm rooting for all forms of drag racing. I wouldn't be at the track every weekend if I wasn't. Check this channel. Since my last little video here from my office, I've been to, IHRA races, 3 different Supermotocrosses. Over on Cycle Drag, you'll see where we're going. You'll see where we're going next. So, of course, I love this stuff. I don't want anything to die. I want to see improvement. And maybe we'll be able to talk to some of the higher-ups about this. But I implore every single one of them. We need passion. We need positive change. And that means deviating away from people who are just hanging on to their job, trying to stay employed. That is what is hurting the NHRA, my friends. I invite you to leave all your comments down below. Let's see if we can beat the last video, 2,600 comments. Don't know if we can do that, but thank you guys so much. Do appreciate it. Again, coming from a place of love, you guys are awesome. Whether you're a lover or a hater, I appreciate you watching, listening to me, and I want to hear from you next because I don't profess to know everything. I'm just a guy that's passionate about motorsports who would like to see some positive change. Thank you guys so much. God bless you. Stay tuned to Racing Jack YouTube, Cycle Drag Facebook, Cycle Drag YouTube, Cycle Drag TikTok, Cycle Drag Instagram. We got much more coming. You guys are awesome. Subscribe and have a good one.